care.
All right, everybody, thank you for coming tonight, and I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order. If you could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Molly, if you'd be so kind as to help us with the roll call.
Yep, sure thing. Mayor Atwell? Mayor Atwell?
Present. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm usually last.
It's what order is in today. Commissioner Eicher?
Here.
Cahalan?
Here.
Hausman?
Here.
Jaschinski?
Here.
Schultz?
Here.
And Merrick and Weiler are excused this evening.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, down to item number 4, minutes. Discussion and possible action on the following minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of February 23rd.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we'll move on to number 5, citizens' comments on the consent agenda items. Anybody that would like to speak to any of the 6 consent agenda items? Seeing none, citizens' comments for this consent agenda are now closed. And we'll move on to,
Did you want to announce all the people that are closed out?
oh, we have to vote on it.
Oh, yeah.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, so if you're on the consent agenda, you can stay for the rest of the meeting if you like. Otherwise, you are free to go. So that would be Town Bank, NRF IX, Hendricks Commercial Properties applicant Peter Krager, Village Square Drive applicant Zane Nichols, Village Square Drive Christina Nelson, and Hendricks Properties Birchwood Wells. You're free to go. All right, we'll move on to number 7, citizens' comments on items other than the consent agenda. So that's anything else on the agenda. Come on up. Name and address, please.
Marcia Stocks, M-A-R-C-I-A, 226 Genesee Street. And I just ask that you do approve the draft of the land use plan and zoning change for our neighborhood. I am very pleased with your reception of the feedback, and I appreciate all the effort that you put into this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Any other citizens' comments for anything else on the agenda? Seeing none, citizens' comments are now closed. Okay, we'll move on to number 8, unfinished business. 8A, DLC 082-5994-701 Maple Avenue, owner Heartland Sports Club, applicant Brian Doro, Delafield Oaks Range, and Mark Wershey, architect. Applicant seeks approval of site plan and appearance review and business plan of operations to operate an indoor firing range, including gun and firearms accessory sales and safety training classes, as well as indoor and outdoor event space. Would the applicant like to come up, please? I don't know.
Oh, thanks for bringing the live materials.
Moral support.
Thank you. Love the samples.
All right, before each one of you speak, just remember to give us your name and address. So, Amy, you want to give us an overview?
Sure. So the property is zoned, I just want to do a little background here.
The property is zoned B6, and the B6 zoning district does allow business uses by right, including several pretty intensive uses such as schools, hotels, and amusement facilities. And residential uses actually require a conditional use permit. So it's the business that's the permitted by right, and the residential that has to go through a special process. The existing land use plan has the property designated in the planned mixed use category, which does allow and provide for a combination of commercial, residential, and light industrial uses. And again, if light industrial uses were proposed, those also require a conditional use permit. The property is surrounded by land zoned commercial and industrial to the north and west, and then residential to the east and south, and a little bit of residential in the southwest corner as well. The applicant's proposing an indoor firing range. This did go through a text amendment over the last few months. I'm sure you all remember it just fine, which is now allowing indoor ranges without no outdoor range use at all by right specifically in the B6 zoning district, and that is subject to conditions. When we get into my recommendations later, the conditions from that text amendment are written word for word right into the conditions of approval. They're also proposing related sales and training class, office space, and event space. They'll provide a lounge area for the people who are shooting, and then when they're done, they would occupy that area, and then also for weddings, conventions, and meetings. And then an outdoor pavilion that's about 2,000 square feet, and then also walking paths and some recreational activities outside, just your yard games and things for people to do. These uses that are being proposed outside of that indoor range are very similar to the uses permitted in B6, but I would say like the banquet type, event type facility, it's actually not addressed in your code at all anywhere. It's usually accessory to some other permitted use, such as a restaurant. So when I look at it, I would say the most similar are restaurants, taverns, cocktail lounges, and amusement establishments are all permitted by right in the B6 district, so that would be allowed. And then you have the authority to allow similar type uses. So I would just ask that if we get to the end and you do approve the use, that you specifically state in your motion that you are considering the uses similar to the spelled out permitted uses in B6, just so that it's clear for the record. You have reviewed concept plans in the past. The application that's here submitted today is very similar to the most previously submitted application that you've considered. I would say, we'll get into the outdoor uses. Those are just a little bit more specifically detailed. So past that, if you don't have any questions, I'm just going to kind of scroll through the packet and go through the site plans. Any questions on the zoning, land use, district? Okay. So the plan includes, there's an existing driveway that goes into the property that will be widened to 21 feet. The fire department has approved it. There is safe access to the site. As part of the engineering report, they do need to make some improvements in the right-of-way, and that will require approval from the town of Delafield. All of the improvements will occur on the property. There's been some recent discussion about, zoom in here. If you look at this area right at the entrance, there's a couple of bold rectangles. Those, if you can see those clearly, they're very minor. There's some overlap in the legal descriptions, which I believe is being worked out. However, we have a survey that was completed by their professional registered surveyor, and so we would utilize that, and all of the activities that are proposed, the driveway and any associated grading, will take place on their property regardless of that discrepancy. So they're using the most restrictive property description to begin with. So it really isn't a city issue, and they will work with their neighbors separately if that's necessary to resolve. If their improvements went into those gaps, I would need more assurance that that's been resolved. So then they'll have their 21-foot wide driveway. It leads into a parking lot that will accommodate 73 spaces. The parking will be screened from the neighbors with the vegetation to the south, and then this area to the east, that's a built-up berm, correct? So they can't see into the site anyway. And the parking, I did do a calculation analysis. Based on the way I'm reviewing the code, they do comply. They have one additional space beyond what's required. I should go into my report and explain what I did for parking, because you can require more or less if you so choose. The zoning code requires one space per 250 square feet for areas that provide entertainment or assembly, and then one space per 150 square feet for restaurants and taverns. And so since this is more of an assembly type facility, not a restaurant where you constantly have people coming and going and some people waiting while other people finish, I mean, they're really coming for an activity or an event. I used the one space per 250 square feet, and that's how I got to the 72 required spaces. They are proposing to keep these two storage buildings that are close to the existing, there's an existing parking lot out there right now, right? I can't, the existing
It's
improvement.
stone. It's deteriorated over years.
Yeah, okay, so that existing improvement area, if you remember, we did do a site inspection a while ago. There's the two buildings in that location for storage purposes. And then we'll, as we go through the site plan, this one doesn't include the entire property. They're also proposing to keep some structures in the southwest corner. I guess while we're on this site plan, I can't remember, what were you planning on doing with this long concrete culvert type structure that I have my cursor on? That's you know what I'm talking about?
It's bermed right now,
Yeah.
leaving it as is for now.
Okay, so they're proposing to, can you explain to the group what that structure
even know.
is?
I believe it was a backdrop to the outdoor gun range that was a sewer culvert pipe.
You're gonna need to talk into the mic, I'm sorry.
And we need your name and
Name
address.
is, yep, sorry.
Mark Roche, Zimmerman Architectural Studios, 2122 West Mount Vernon Avenue, Milwaukee. It was a culvert backstop for the outdoor gun range that's bermed over. There's earth over the top of it.
And then is there another structure that I'm pointing to on the screen? Another backdrop?
I'm not familiar with that.
No, I think that would have been, what you're pointing at is the backdrop to the outdoor 200 yard range.
Okay.
So they had some makeshift targets that are just old. No, I mean, I could get rid of them, and I do plan on getting rid of them.
Okay.
They're hooked up to some contraption where they pull up the target, extend it.
But the other one, the longer one, is that difficult to remove, or could that be removed too?
You know, I don't know that. I mean, I looked at it from a distance. It looks like it's
Okay.
pretty much concealed, underground. I can look at it.
Okay. And then they are also proposing a pavilion, and there's other plans that show the pavilion space, but that's located right here on the site plan. I'm gonna go to page 62. So the majority of, the range structure, the range structure is all being mostly buried underground. They are keeping just a bit of the top exposed. I believe that's for maintenance purposes, long-term maintenance purposes. And this is just showing the grading plan. There will be some significant grading. You're mostly cutting into the hillside, correct?
Yeah, the one berm, yeah, we're cutting through the berm for the range proper.
And then where do you intend on putting that spoil material?
On site.
Okay, so spreading it out?
Yes, correct.
Pretty level to what's out there? We want to make sure there's no drainage issues.
No, we're tied into the existing grading.
Okay. Then I'm going to go to, if you guys have any questions and you want to stop me on these plans, feel free. There's a lot of plans in this file. Okay, so this is showing they're going to remove these three, I don't know what they are, concrete
planks.
structures. Those are all going to go. And then they're removing three structures in that southwest corner. He is proposing to keep two structures. One is a building, correct, that will be used for storage.
I would describe it as not a building, but an oversized pole barn, I would say. So you guys, when we took that visit, it was that yellow one.
I know what it
out
is.
there.
Need the mic, I'm sorry.
When we did take the visit, it was the yellow one, in decent shape for storage.
I guess
then-
if we're talking about those two structures, I thought those violated setbacks when we were talking with the Heartland Sportsman Club.
Yeah, so there's the Heartland Sportsman Club was subject to a conditional use, and the conditional use section that was applicable to them required a 75-foot setback for buildings adjacent to residential properties. The indoor range, and I think that was primarily because it was an outdoor recreational facility conditional use. The indoor range does not, it's permitted by right, so they only need to comply with the B6 requirements. There is, so the B6 section, when you go to it, there is actually an interesting provision that I hadn't read before. It takes you to, I believe it's B2 for certain provisions, and one of them is no building customarily used for night operation shall have any opening other than stationary windows or required fire exits within 200 feet of any residential district, and any space used for loading or unloading commercial vehicles in connection with such an operation shall not be within 100 feet of any residential district. That the big building that they're proposing does not have, it will not have any openings within 200 feet. It's really it's the range side. There is, however, they have to cut into the hillside for the range to get access to that lower level. That is like right now 100 and I don't know, maybe 180 some feet away. That is an exit, a primary exit. If you feel that if it's more than a fire exit, they could probably tweak the location of the building 20 feet. I think you have a lot of space to work
We
with.
could relocate the door if that was an issue.
So a majority of the building is 200 feet away. So that's the only kind of oddball restriction. Otherwise, the side yards are 10 feet, and then where abutting a residential district, the side yard adjacent to a residential district shall be 25 feet. But I guess these are existing non-conforming structures that will be used for storage. The one within, I think it's less than 20 feet away, is going to be used for storage purposes. So it's not being used for the principal use. What else here? The engineer did provide comments, and he does recommend that the application, so they reviewed the stormwater management plans, the sewer and water connection plans. There are several conditions tied to that letter. He does recommend that it goes to Public Works Committee after the applicant has revised the plans to comply with the conditions. So he would prefer it go to Public Works once it's at its final state. The property, the city staff would like the property to be served by sewer and water, but it is not in the current sewer service district. And so they do need to go through sewer pack approval. That is about a 6-month, the applicants may not be aware of this yet. It is about a 6-month process to get through. It's very likely that it would get accepted. They just have to review the capacity and what have you. So what we can do, if they would like to move forward, is allow them to begin prepping the site and start construction. And if that sewer service area were to not be approved, then they could service the site with the septic system. But the city would prefer the sewer be in place. They did do a traffic impact analysis. That impact analysis did determine that no improvements are necessary. They actually also considered the possibility of the property in the southwest corner of Hillside and Maple Avenue turning into apartments, which we do not have any application for that, but we just wanted the applicant to think about, what if we get a significant use in another corner of the same street? And even with those in place, they're not asking for any improvements on this site, other than to ensure that the driveway meets proper site distance requirements, so that they'll have to submit that as part of the engineering review. And then there's some sewer and water main comments and some easements that need to be in place. They have to identify the specific hydrant location. And then we do also need to know their intentions on the private well. So if you're going to be served by water, would you be abandoning the existing well? I think you have to if it's not functional after a certain.
If I have to, I will, yes.
I think you can only leave a well unused for so many days, but that's a state regulated, state requirement, but we would want to know what you're planning to do. There is they are proposing tree mitigation. I can't remember what page that's on. They are going to remove 15 trees. Let's see, let's go through here. If I missed did I miss it?
It's on the,
Is it
on
up
the
above this?
on the landscape plan, I believe.
We'll find it. Sorry, bear with me. It might be, it must be below okay, it's gonna take me a little bit. They're removing 15 trees, which equals 99 inches in diameter, and they will be replacing that with several trees that also equals 99 inches in diameter, and that will be a combination of deciduous and evergreen plantings. They're not really proposing any vegetation as part of this application anyway around the building or around the parking lot. It's a pretty isolated site, but that is something to, here it is. Something to consider because typically the ordinance requires landscape islands every so many spaces, or the Plan Commission can review and approve perimeter planting. I would think this site being isolated enough and pretty screened with the vegetation to the south that the landscape islands probably aren't necessary, but maybe you could aesthetically bulk up around the parking lot with a few more trees. They have a lighting plan that, if you look at, this is a photometric plan. It's really hard to read, so I apologize on the screen. But what you can see is that, so you can't read the numbers, but wherever there's little dots, that's the extent of the illumination. I mean, some of those dots say 0, 0. It goes to the point where it starts saying 0, 0 everywhere. But you can see it's internally in the site. I mean, nothing is leaching onto adjacent properties at all. It's pretty condensed into the use area of the property.
And it's all down lighting
It's all down lighting. There is these little red dots, which are hard to see, are the pole lights, and then there's some lights attached to the building, but it's all pretty low intensity stuff. In the packet, you can see the renderings of the lights. I mean, they're your typical, they're pretty standard downcast lights. The only thing I need from them, there's a condition that I review the final lighting plan. So they have these tables that include the calculations for the impacts of the lighting. The city's ordinance just has specific calculations that need to be looked at that aren't addressed exactly. So I don't believe they're going to run into any issues, especially impacts to the neighborhood, but I do want to make sure they comply with the code. And then I think it's important that we go through the business plan of operation elements carefully because it is adjacent to residential properties.
Amy, one thing on
Yeah.
the land with the pollution when we were out there, we talked about lead. We require a phase 1 or a phase 2, and
So
how does that process work?
Yeah, so they need to work with the DNR. I have a condition in here, so that's outside of our wheelhouse, our expertise. However, we obviously want to make sure that what they're doing is compliant and safe. In fact, our engineers in their letter say that they need to review the DNR information because the sewer and water laterals will have to go below grade. They'll be directionally bored, and then also the storm property's internally drained, so the water's going to drain into these kettle areas, and again, that's going to leach into the soil, that runoff. So it is something that we'll have to look at. The condition says that they have to comply with all requirements of the remediation program at the DNR and their stormwater program as well.
Yeah.
And so we will get that written documentation once that's been completed. We don't know what goes into compliance, and that's why there's many agencies involved, and
Yeah.
he needs to go through all the approvals from all of us.
I would just comment, I would do it sooner than later, because if you uncover something big, that can derail all this effort, because
Yeah.
you've got a major remediation issue.
Sure. And I believe
We've
it's a-
done testing already.
Phase 1 or phase 2, or
Well,
you dug bore holes, or?
we have.
You have, okay.
Yep, down,
Okay.
yep.
That's all I was asking, thanks.
Thank you.
Before I go, I guess, into all these BPO details, I can quickly show, I think you've seen what the building looks like already. They really haven't changed much. So this is the pretty part, it's the most fun part. And they have the live material boards on the table too, if you want to ask them for more information on the building details. I do provide some information in the report also. But as far as the operation goes, so they're going to have this indoor and outdoor event space. The outdoor event space is primarily on the north side of the property, away from the residential properties. There really is no reason for people to navigate to the south side of the property. There's not much going on there. But they are going to propose, during certain events, they would like to propose food service via food trucks, catering services, and then they will have grab and go selections on the property. They are proposing a Class B liquor license for beer and wine sales. That's not the kind of license that the city is limited on giving a certain amount of license out. They can just, somebody can come and ask for that. There's no limitation on the amount. They're proposing holiday events such as Easter egg hunts, Halloween fun nights, special events that may include tents, Boy Scout badge events, hiking on the property. 2 to 4 times a year they would propose outdoor movie nights, and they may have live music events 4 to 6 times a year, and then some neighborhood gatherings 2 to 4 times a year. He has an alcohol safety policy in place. People will not be allowed to drink alcohol, and have their guns will have to be put away before they can do that. And then the hours of operation are
Amy,
kind of, yep,
Before you
ahead.
go on to that, I got a note. I didn't see anything in here about deer hunting. There's no bow hunting involved, is there? Or is
I'm
there?
not aware of anything, and I don't know
Okay.
what the
That's fine.
bow
I did-
hunting rules are
It's
at
a
the
citizen's
city.
email saying something
Yes.
about, I oppose
I'm not
it,
aware of
but
anything.
I didn't see anything about deer hunting.
I guess if they're talking about the same thing, I was approached by representatives from the city committee to see if we designate that spot to use for bow hunting
Okay.
or whatever the terminology is there.
Well, like we do a lot of the other parks.
Yeah.
There is a stand over there, isn't there?
Yeah,
In
that-
that area, it might be on city
Not a
property.
city stand.
Yeah, in the city property, a city stand?
Not a city stand.
No, there's an old stand that's going to go. It's leaning over.
Okay.
It's unsafe, so.
I thought there was, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not, at this point, I'd like to look at that. I'm not in favor of it.
Okay. I
So-
didn't see it in there, and when somebody complains about something that's not there,
Sure,
thanks, Amy.
yeah.
Unless we went down some different road, I don't know that we could, just based on what the state laws are, that we could regulate their compliance with state laws, and that would be like any other private citizen or private company with land available allowing deer hunting per the state regulations. But I do know that based on when we initially talked, the usage and the zoning precludes you from having like recreational crossbow targets and bow and arrow shooting and stuff, just kind of ad hoc or just as a part of a designated recreational activity on the property. But having some bow stands to get rid of some of the deer, which we'd like you to do, as long as you're up in a stand and shooting down at the ground and you're 300 feet away from neighbors that don't want you to do it, I think you're like everybody else. That's my understanding anyway.
So the business plan of operation hours, so they'll have about 30 part-time employees, and then the range and retail portion of the operation would be open. I mean, he's got different time frames, but the earliest 9 a.m. to the latest 9 p.m. And then actually on the weekends, it's lesser hours. They never start before 9 a.m. And then the event space and outside pavilion activities, he's proposing to be open from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Thursday and Sunday, and 9 a.m. to midnight on Friday and Saturday, with the caveat that any outside service, music, or organized activity would close at 10 p.m. on any day, any event time. And they really don't have deliveries, no chemicals, outside storage, and the pickup would be, they're relying on regular city pickup. I don't know if I'm missing anything, let me know. They are going to propose signage and an entrance gate, but they don't have detailed plans for that yet, so they'll need to come back for approval. That the plan commission will have to review that information. And any other questions before I go into the recommendation? Or if the applicant wants to supplement?
No, you did a great job, Amy. I don't have anything further.
Okay.
Mark, do you want to add
Anything?
anything? Nope. Okay.
So I do have a little bit of a list for my recommendation. I do recommend approval of the request subject to several conditions. Again, I did not put this in here, but I would like the Plan Commission to specifically include whether or not you determine the uses proposed to be similar to the permitted uses in the B6 district. So condition number 1 is that we need to terminate the existing conditional use for Heartland Sportsman Club. That's really important. It's a requirement in the code, and we want to remove that CU anyway. So we'll have the city attorney review, and we'll be talking about it tomorrow. What exact process needs to take place in order to do that. And then no other conditional use may be authorized on the subject property is another condition in that paragraph. Number 2 is the indoor firing range must be within an enclosed building or structure at all times. Outdoor or exterior fire ranges are prohibited. That's in the text amendment as well. And then any building in which firearms are discharged shall be entirely enclosed, configured, constructed, and maintained in a manner that prevents firearm projectiles from escaping the confines of the building from any entrance door, window, loading dock, or any other or similar access point to the building. Number 4, no shooting activity may be conducted on the premises unless an NRA-trained range safety officer is present during all activities being conducted at any of the indoor ranges. On the property, a safety officer roster shall be kept on file at City Hall and remain current at all times. That'll be shared with the police department. And then the applicant shall maintain a daily log that includes the names and hours worked of all the range safety officers working on the property. That log should be made available to the city as requested. We're not going to ask that you submit a regular log, but we will want it available. Number 5 is that all comments of the engineering report dated March 21st of 2022 be complied with, and the final civil plans shall be reviewed by the Public Works Committee. If substantial site changes are required by Public Works Committee, the application shall be reconsidered by Plan Commission. Number 6, all parking and lighting requirements of the City of Delafield zoning code shall be complied with. These requirements will be verified by the city planner prior to the issuance of any permits. And again, that's just the parking. I just want to make sure you agree with the 1 space per 250 square feet. If so, then they meet that requirement. The lighting, I just want the updated table. And then 7, the final site plan shall be reviewed and approved by the fire department prior to the issuance of any permits. I did get comments from them. They do have a couple of questions about whether or not the building is sprinklered, which it is. They don't have any access issues. They want to make sure that there's proper egress and ability to access the range facility. And then they have some other minor comments about the type of doors and making sure, mostly just access stuff. So we will make sure that the final plans are reviewed and approved by the fire department. Number 8 is the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources shall review the proposed site plans for the property and provide written documentation that the site complies with the standards of the remediation and redevelopment program as well as any requirements of their stormwater program. And again, this condition is specific to the lead that's on the property, and then also they are going to be grading more than an acre, and they will need a DNR stormwater permit no matter what. Number 9, this is, we have to change number 9 for sure. So I just want to make sure that the Plan Commission reviews the uses of the outdoor uses and hours carefully. And so I had put in here originally that any outdoor event that includes temporary tents, portalettes, live music, or food trucks requires special event permit from the city of Delafield. I was informed that your special event permit is used differently than what I'm used to in other municipalities, and we should not be using that process. So I was advised that you should consider what you think is appropriate and condition this approval specifically on the number of events that they're allowed to have with live music, if any, and the hours of operation related to these types of things, and whether or not you want to see the food trucks. And then the next one is all organized outdoor activities and service shall cease at 10 p.m. 7 days a week. So think about that carefully as well. Number 11, the applicant shall obtain a restaurant license from Waukesha County and liquor license from the city of Delafield prior to commencing such operations. Written documentation of these approvals shall be provided to the city planner. There shall be no shooting activities by individuals that have been drinking alcoholic beverages. Number 12, a detailed colored rendering of the trash enclosure shall be submitted. I didn't see that anywhere. I'm assuming you're going to enclose it with a similar type coloring and structure. So you can decide whether or not you want to review that before it gets approved. I have it with just my approval. And then the final condition I have in here is the applicant shall specify the uses of the existing structures to remain. If the structures are to be used for anything other than storage, the uses shall be reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission. So when they submitted, I didn't know what the uses of all of those structures were going to be.
That's a lot.
So Amy, you
Yeah.
had 2 on there. So you need to decide hours, and then you have another condition where you limited it to 10. Did I hear that right?
So the hours are as proposed. I mean,
Okay.
so I don't really get into that, other than making sure all organized outdoor activities and services cease at 10 p.m.
10, that's the clarification that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to make that crystal clear, that's when they need to stop.
Was that the intent of the applicant as well, at the same?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yep, all outside activities.
Okay. Because it doesn't,
Organized activities.
to your point, it doesn't read that way in the packet? Or does it?
Yes.
does.
It does read
yes.
that way? Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So the one that you'll just want to look at is number 9. You either need to strike it, or if you want to put in provisions that limit the extent of those outdoor activities, then you'll need to add that.
So Amy, explain that again. I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. When you talked about, you first suggested we should scrutinize any outdoor activities, but then you said sometimes there's a special permit that would be issued. I'm not sure I'm following what the recommendation would be.
So he's got certain things that he's proposing a few times a year. And I don't know exactly what that's going to look and feel like, or when that's going to occur. So I put in here they need to get a special event permit, not really understanding what the city's special event permit is. That is not an appropriate permit. But it would just help to know what are the dates when we are going to expect those outdoor music. Are they going to fall within the 4 to 6 days? If you feel that many times is appropriate, where's the tent going to go? Is it impacting anything? Food trucks too. How often are they going to be coming and going, and do they have their proper licenses? So, my goal there was to have kind of an extra added review for the uses that aren't your everyday typical uses. And I don't know how you've historically addressed that, if you have, or how you want to here, but I mean, if you want to give me your ideas, I can help you craft something. You do have,
We've got a few examples of where this type of stuff goes on, and this is kind of number 9 is kind of a catch-all for probably the more intrusive things on the neighbors, is what I would,
Right.
how I'd label it. So just from my experience, I'll review, and people might remember some of them. We've got Music on the Hill that the hotel, Delafield Hotel does, and that's, they give us specific dates. And so they ask for a business plan of operation amendment to approve those specific dates, quantities, and times, you know, for the year. Other places like,
But
Like-
just,
like-
just to point out, in that example, they're using a city street. Pamela Street, I believe.
Amelia, yeah, but I believe the event, though I don't know that their business plan ever called for outdoor music outside of
I
adding
think
that to the
they
venue.
amended their approval last year, and they have they call out a specific day of the week where they have outdoor music. It was a specific approval, though.
Didn't we just go through that outside music with,
And Fishbones, that was gonna be another thing where we talked about
Which
specific.
is where I thought you got the 10
specific-
o'clock, right? Because we all
specific
agreed
days
at
and
10
time.
o'clock, yeah.
Specific day and time, and I know, like, going back a ways, just when Angelina's asked for outdoor seating past a certain amount, or just to have amplified music out there, that's another thing we shut off on 10 o'clock, I think, and
So
at
how would
night.
this work? Every year they would submit?
No, that's like, those are permanent things now, right? I mean, those aren't annual, that's just how those
That's what I'm asking.
places function.
You're not gonna know your events at a time. For every year, it's gonna land on this and it's gonna be.
I know,
this
it's a
event.
question, so I'm
That's why
asking, I'm just
I
saying
think
how we handle.
The idea was there's 4 to 6.
Because say you
You
just
know, is
limit
that
it.
reasonable?
Yeah, if you limit the number and just let it be a number, right? Because otherwise you get into,
Yeah, the specifics.
How is it
like-
controlled then? I guess
Yeah.
that's my question.
It just can't be more than 6.
That's what I was hoping for, 4 to 6.
Is it
top
implicit
6.
that it's managed? We know what it is? I guess I'm just a question because I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
ignorance on my part.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Is there a mechanism to say, well, suddenly you discover the concerts are great and you're going to have one every week?
No,
Is there
no,
a-
not
how do
asking
we-
for that.
Do
No.
we control that or don't we have any control over that?
Well, what you control is that type of activity that they have on their list can only have, per their BPO, is 4 to 6 times a year.
What about
So
controlling?
it couldn't happen every week because it can only be 4.
So Amy, why'd you bring
maximum
it up in the
6.
first place?
Why-
I guess, if it says in here 6 times a year, then what was the
Yeah,
concern?
it's been my experience in the past to control that a little bit more by finding out when are those events going to occur and what is it going to look like. And that happens, I've seen it happen a lot of different ways. One being you have to submit your plan 30 days before the event to City Hall. I've seen it where you have to notify the neighbors 30 days ahead of the event. I've seen it where it's been the special events, but that's a different process. You have to apply for a special event 30 days. I've seen it where January 1st of each year, you have to submit your events for the year. There are many communities that will control those extra special events a little bit tighter. You don't have to. It's kind of nice to know when there is something and the neighbors start complaining, you're at least aware of it and the police department's aware of it and you can kind of anticipate it coming.
What about-
Conversely, if,
I have no problem if you want me to submit it 30 days, I will always work with the neighbors. So that's a given. They're going to get emails. They're going to know about it before anybody else. Even in the planning phase, to advise them, hear their concerns, certainly invite them. And if you want, I'm trying to make it as least intrusive as possible. I won't know them a year out. I can tell you that. Looking at around the July 4th holidays, maybe something tied into some holidays, extended weekend is more or less what I'm looking, if we even do it. I mean, I'm just asking for it. It may not even get up to 6 per year.
and I'm not looking for more work either. So if, for example, we approve 6, the neighbors complain because they're at number 9, do we
Well,
have
that
the
would be in
latitude-
violation of the BPO.
Yep.
Okay.
But we won't, if they don't submit anything, we're not going to know, right?
All the neighbors will
The
tell you.
neighbors will know.
Right, well,
Yeah.
I mean, as a practical matter, if nobody's complaining, I'm not sure I care.
Well,
I mean,
no,
it's,
again, I want to be, what I'm presenting is what I want to follow. Up to 6. I won't go 9, I won't go 7. I mean, 6 is it, if we even go that.
Okay.
I guess I'm concerned about the size of the event. How are we gonna know if this is 100 people, 1,000 people?
Not going to have 1,000.
Well, I'm just throwing
Yeah,
numbers out
but I mean,
there,
I don't,
We don't, care? Or-
I think that it's very
Parking
hard
and-
right now to judge that because,
I think we should
I
have some
don't-
control.
yeah, I think we should have some control, but how do you come up with a figure when you don't, nothing has happened so far?
Right,
if you've
that's
got
why
how
I
many-
would like
Yeah.
to know now.
How
many-
Okay, 6 events
Yeah.
sounds good to me
How
too,
many
but how
parking
big?
spots do we have again?
And he might wind up with
73.
only one or two this coming year or two.
The average 2 people, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know, you do a 200,
But you could be
250
parking on
limit.
lawns too, and
But if you limit it to 200 to 250, 2 people per car,
I,
or
Yeah, that's
whatever,
500.
that's what I'm
then you've
getting
got
at.
to,
It's some kind of size
Yeah.
control.
Here's what I can reassure you, it will always be managed properly. It will not get out of control. There will not be people, cars on neighbors' lawns or anything like that. That will never happen.
No, I meant on your property.
No, even on our
Instead of
property.
the
It's
70
not a fr-
spots, maybe they start parking.
No,
on
it's not a
lawns and
free-for-all.
there's-
It will never get to a free-for-all where people are parking wherever. If it gets to, it's successful, we'll cap it. We'll say, we don't have any more room. It will never get to the point where we cannot manage it and we're upsetting the neighbors. It will never get to that point.
I think how you could best control it though is that through a ticket. Then you can set a number.
Yeah. I mean, that's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
You know.
Then you can set a cap of, say,
And it's
500,
more for our members too. That's who we really hope the entertainment is for, not necessarily for the general public, everyone in the neighborhood or the community to empty into the place. That's not really what it's set up for.
Right.
More or less for our members that use the club on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think by ticket would be a way to best control it.
So in my opinion, just like bringing the shooting inside, shoot all you want inside, right? Play music all you want inside.
Yep.
All that stuff as far as, because it's about containing the safety and, the impediment upon the neighbors to do what they like to do in their yards, right? Like sometimes, and most of that is enjoy peace and quiet too. With these events, so one of my concerns is just like amplified noise, and when you talk about hours for a band, right? Say 4 to 6, you could have 46 bands a year, and if it's 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on a Saturday, you probably won't get a lot of complaints, just some dogs and stuff. But if it's always 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., you're always going to get complaints. So I'm concerned, what are your thoughts as far as a cap? You mentioned outdoor activities and service shall cease at 10 p.m. What's your thoughts on a cap for a timeline for amplified noise, like amplified music or PA systems?
It's 10 a.m.
It's
or
10 p.m. Everything's 10 p.m.
Are you talking about indoors or
No,
outdoor?
outdoor.
Outdoors.
I think it's just like the fishbowl
The
story, right?
BPO is written for 10 p.m.
Yep.
All
Everything-
outside activities have to cease at 10 p.m.
Okay, so that would be for, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Is it too restrictive? I hear what you said, but what if you're not here next year, right? Somebody else, that's the thing you always got to think about. I get that.
I'll be here.
I know, but is it too restrictive to come up with no more than 300 people? Just to put something in there so it's just, then everybody sleeps at night. Is that tying the business's hands by doing something like that? Is it unnecessary?
We could, I would ask you not to put the number of people. People flow in and out. I don't want to have my team having to count, 10,
Yeah.
10 more. I don't want that system. I would even say we'll cut it off at 8 o'clock. Instead of 10, any live music done at 8
Well,
o'clock.
I wasn't talking about the time. I was just talking about the sheer volume, the
Yeah.
thing we were talking about with volume.
Mhm.
If it's not an issue, I'm not.
That's more where I was getting as far as noise levels, because what time would be a reasonable time to say, 10 o'clock on a Monday night for live music, 1,000 feet from someone's
Yeah.
bedroom window in September is different than,
Yeah.
8 o'clock, right? That's more where I would,
Can you ever foresee a live band at 10 o'clock on a weeknight?
No. I could see July 4th weekend, Memorial Day, Labor Day, holidays, more so than anything else, but more on the weekends.
And I just don't know how that music will I'm not worried about the indoor music, but the outdoor music, I don't know how it'll carry across the properties. It really is can be
Well-
dependent on the topography and.
I can tell you right now, I live on the
vegetation.
other side of I-94, and when we have Delafield days, I hear that music all the way across there.
You can. I hear it from my house.
Yep.
That wind's
And
coming from the
even
northwest.
last year with the league, the Legion,
So,
oh my gosh, it seemed louder than Delafield days. I don't know if it was because of the direction it was coming from or
wind,
what, but
wind
yeah.
matters.
Unless you're willing to shut down Delafield days at 9 o'clock.
No, it's once a year.
Yeah. Oh, when you have the dogs howling, yeah, it's not fun.
Amy, can you explain number 11 for me real quick? Liquor license from Delafield
Sure.
makes sense. What's the liquor license requirement?
The
from
liquor
county?
license, it goes to the city council.
Yeah,
Molly really leads this. It's a Class B liquor license.
that I get. You said I thought you said something about the county then too.
Oh, the county is the restaurant license, so
Okay.
even
All
like
right.
they're serving grab-and-go type meals, you need to get a
Got
simple
it.
restaurant license.
I just had liquor down. Okay, thank you.
I know somebody in correspondence brought up a concern about what one of our city objectives is as far as leveraging liquor license to bring fine dining and establishments here. That's not this kind of license that that's really targeted for. And so those are like Olive Garden and where the Seven Seas was, those are good examples of where those liquor licenses are gobbled up and we don't have any floating around.
Those are 10 grand, and if you try to get one on the open market from another municipality, it's over 20 right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I do like the idea, though, of the 30-day notice to the city and to the neighbors of a special event.
Well, then we could just recraft 9 to say they give 30-day written notice to the city.
It's always nice
If people agree with
give
that.
everybody a heads up.
Yeah, and I'm 100% in favor of that.
Yeah, because a lot of the places around here that have
Yep.
special events do.
No problem.
I think that's reasonable. That way it informs the neighbors,
Yep.
informs the city.
Neighbors, how close?
I'd say
Yeah,
a budding
a
property
budding
owners.
property,
Word will get out.
yeah.
Yeah. Just notify Joan.
Like wildfire. Yeah,
Joan will get the word out.
All right, any other discussion? If none, then we're looking for somebody who's quite skilled.
Can I, hold on. Well, you can use, I mean, so what a lot of people do is that if they make a motion to recommend approval in accordance with the staff recommendation with the following changes, I mean, that's just an easier way to do it. But with this number 9, you know, I have on here, a 30-day written notice must be provided to the city and abutting neighbors. For what, though? I just want clarification on what.
Of the
I would
event.
say what you said, outdoor events that include
Yeah.
temporary tents, portalettes, live music.
Or
special
food trucks.
events.
And I meant live music, by the way, I noticed in here. I meant outdoor live music, not indoor. So,
Sure.
I mean, if you want
Right,
to change
yeah.
that, that's fine, but.
Also, number 9, do we want to put the 6 events a year?
It's
Yes.
already in the BPO.
Well, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it hurts. It
Okay.
doesn't hurt. Well,
I'm not going to violate it. Trust me. Put it in there if you
Even
want.
if it's
but
written twice.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
the more the merrier,
Double negative.
Be careful of that.
Abutting.
abutting.
budding.
I would comment, I know many of us got just a couple emails of some objections, and I will comment, it appears, based on we had no public comment, that you really did reach out after some of these meetings and worked with the neighborhoods. I don't know if that's a fact, but my perception based on what I've said.
Yeah.
And some of the things I read, again, just for the record, the reality of what you're doing versus what people perceived, and it was only a small handful, was a disconnect.
Yeah.
So maybe hopefully over time, people will either watch this, listen, see the minutes, and recognize some of their misunderstandings are that misunderstanding.
Well, thank you for that. And I'm very hopeful, and I continue to work with the neighbors. And as I mentioned, I've knocked on over 85 doors. We've had routine meetings. We've had open lines of communication. I tried to make them all happy, I'll tell you that, at great length, and I think I fell a little bit short, and that's not because my lack of effort
Yeah.
or my team's lack of effort. There's some things that I could promise everything, and it's probably still wouldn't make everyone happy. And I did fall short of my goal of making everyone happy. I will continue to try, and whoever comes forward, they're always going to be welcome. I will be transparent. It's going to be one heck of a well-run organization. Here's my team. They sit here with extensive security, law enforcement, you name it. It's going to be one incredible addition to this community, but I will not stop making sure that the neighbors are well informed. If they have gripes, they're always going to be welcome. It's going to be open lines of communication at all times.
Good, and as a city, to assume we can do nothing for 10 more years, I think is a false assumption.
Yeah.
So in a bad situation, this seems to be a good outcome.
I agree.
Compared to what we've been through for the last 10 years, you bet.
Yes.
12 years?
Well, at least 10.
At least, yeah.
Is it- So is this something that then I don't believe it. Is this something that then requires council approval as well?
No,
No, okay.
this is the last stop, other than the city engineer and
Can we just
Public
make a
Works
motion,
when they
Amy,
need
based
it.
on
I
your
take
nod?
that back. I take that back. The similar uses has to get council approval.
Oh,
I just thought of that.
Okay.
I'm not sure I understand what you just said.
So because the event space and facility is not specifically listed as a permitted use, that does need to go to council. Just that. So this would all of the conditions and approval would be approved subject to that.
So you're
So,
saying that.
so walk me through that again, please.
So in the B6 district, there's specific uses listed. I mean, unless you want to call it, you can call it that it's specifically identified. The most similar uses that I came up with are restaurants, taverns, cocktail lounges, and amusement establishments, which it says amusement establishments including bowling alleys, gymnasiums, swimming pools, skating rinks, indoor tennis and handball facilities, and indoor theaters. If you want to call it one of those, that's your prerogative. Because I didn't see this specific use listed, I'm recommending it's a similar use, and similar uses have to be a recommendation to the Common Council.
Do you have the full list of uses that we could say that
Yes, you want me to read
complies
through
to?
it?
Yeah.
There are 52 of them, I believe, right?
Maybe the
So
ones that apply.
it's amusement establishments, and I just listed out the types. Animal hospitals without outdoor runs or pens. Art studio, auction rooms without outdoor sales and storage. Bakery, not over 6 employees. Bank or savings and loan office. Barber shop. Beauty parlor. Blueprinting and photo stating establishments. Book or stationery store. Clinic. Cocktail lounges, which I do think this is on that perimeter. Confectionery store. I don't know if it's, call it delicatessen? You know what I'm talking about. Drive-through windows for restaurants, drugstore, essential services, florist shop, garden supplies and equipment, gift shop, greenhouses and nurseries, grocery, hardware stores, hotels, interior decorator, ice cream store, jewelry store, laboratories, medical and dental, meat and fish market, motels, music and radio store, notion or variety shop, offices, professional, public, and business, parking lot, pet shops without outdoor kennels, pharmacy, photographer, printing establishments, limited to a certain size, professional office or studio. I take radio and television sales, real estate office, research establishments and laboratories, restaurants, schools, commercial trade, technical, private or public, shoe store, soda fountain, tailor or dressmaking shop, tavern, taxidermist, television and radio broadcasting studios, tobacco shops, travel bureaus and ticket offices, undertaking establishments, and funeral parlors. And then other permitted uses may be allowed if determined by the Plan Commission to be substantially similar to the above and subject to approval by Common Council. Now, I will say, some of these uses are far more intense than what the applicant is proposing, and I think that's really important. And I would kind of classify this as a lounge, banquet facility, convention center, which the banquet facilities and convention centers are not listed anywhere. And so it is absolutely appropriate to find the districts that it fits in and call it a similar use, because a code can't anticipate every single
Right.
use. I mean, you just can't. And then the lounge part, I mean, cocktail lounge is, I would say, is part of
Wouldn't
part
you
of the
think
operation.
too, under amusement, it would fall too?
So you could say that.
That one seems the best to me,
Right.
myself.
That's
And I
the
do,
one-
in my initial report, I did say, between the restaurant and the cocktail lounge and the tavern type, because there's a little bar and,
Yeah.
and seats and stuff, and the amusement establishments, it really kind of fits in that pocket.
So how would
I
that be
just wanna
worded? So how would that?
Well, then you need to say you would consider the uses, those, whatever your,
'Cause I think-
Amusement and cocktail lounge,
Yeah,
that could
I
be
mean, you would have
said?
to
But
just-
when you
you
say
can say
amusement,
that,
a lot of
that's-
times for amusement, you're going to have food. The theater, a bar, you're going to have food. So it kind of like food and entertainment, and because everything that he's proposing to me sounds more like an amusement. Because even some people can say shooting is an amusement.
So I'm just trying to understand what the wording that would be considered. So we would just, the planning commission in their motion would say that the use is what to amusement, and it falls under amusement and cocktail lounges? Is that what it would say?
if that's what you feel is appropriate.
And
you would
then
say
if-
it falls
if
within
the planning
those.
commission did feel that was appropriate, then it would not need to go to?
Similar use, right.
Okay.
Then you could just stick with the initial recommendations with swapping out 9, condition 9. There's also, I can go on, it also allows the uses in B2 and B3. I went through those, they're really similar to this. I don't think there's anything, I mean, if you do want me to go through them, I don't think there's anything else in there that's
I mean,
gonna.
those are pretty close, I mean, those are appropriate. Is there anything else in the list that you read that is even more appropriate?
No, I did not find anything more appropriate. I can quick do another glance here. I don't think B2 actually gives specific uses, it's more general. Yeah, they're. Amusement establishments again, cocktail lounges, it's just very similar with a lesser list. So like, there's a lot of restaurants. So originally I was thinking, okay, more of a restaurant use. There's a lot of, I mean, I shouldn't say a lot. There are other restaurants in the city with banquet facilities tied to it. And it's really, that's really considered an accessory use to a restaurant use.
Okay.
It's just that this is kind of a primary use on this property with the gun club. There's not that otherwise, unless you call it a cocktail lounge with the event center tied to the cocktail lounge would possibly be another way to look at it.
So how do we handle this? Can we approve everything except for the part that goes to common council, or do we have to send it to common council first?
Not if you determine
Yeah.
that it fits the amusement, the
Right.
uses that are in there,
Okay,
zoning.
so we have
right?
to decide that first?
Yeah,
No,
That has to
okay,
be in the motion, that,
Yes.
Okay,
that the uses are
similar,
determined to be
similar.
that of amusement.
Not similar. They have to be,
Cocktail. Lounges. or-
I started typing 6 and stopped.
Yeah, I want to go
Oh, the
to 4.
conditions?
I'm just going to repeat this thing back.
I've
Yeah.
got 14 of them now.
Again,
Amy gave you another,
Again, I
Amy gave you another option.
I think you can say in accordance with the staff report with the following exceptions.
Okay. So why can't we just say amusement? It fits the use of amusement. and
You
be
can.
done.
If you feel it does, you can.
Yeah, I mean, this is all.
Is that a motion?
I'm intimidated by 14 pieces. I'm.
Hey, you
I'm,
can't
you know,
complain, you can't say you're new for that long, Dan.
to whatever she said.
Yeah, that's better.
All right, I'll make the motion.
All right, you give it a shot.
I have, yeah,
Wow, now Mike's
I
even
know,
newer
yeah,
than
really.
you, Dan.
the rookie's going out on a limb.
You're making me look bad, but go ahead.
Go for it, Ruby.
You'll correct me when I get
Okay.
to number 14. Okay, so the motion would include, as recommended, the 13 conditions that Amy has outlined, along with, and then help me with the verbiage, acceptance that the use fits the current description.
Of amusement.
Yeah, we need to say amusement then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that including the cocktail lounge use?
Cocktail lounge,
Cocktail.
restaurant, and amusement.
What about
Changing
condition
number-
9?
condition number 9.
Yeah, and you
Oh,
want to,
and we,
No more than 6 events.
no more, yeah, 6 events
30
and 30-day
day.
written notice.
Must
To
be
the
provided to the city and the adjoining
adjacent
abutting
property
neighbors.
owners.
Right.
Okay, can I read that motion back?
You sure can. We love it when you do that.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you, Mike.
Approve the
Thank
site
you.
plan and appearance review and business plan of operation to operate an indoor firing range, including gun and firearms accessory sales and safety training classes, as well as indoor and outdoor event space, which fall within the amusement establishment and cocktail lounge uses, subject to the condition in the planner's report dated March 30th, 2022, except that condition number 9 shall be replaced with the condition that the outdoor uses that are listed shall be noticed to the city and abutting neighbors 30 days prior to the event, and events shall be limited to 6 per year per the BPO.
No more than 6.
Limited to
6, yeah, that's
6 per
okay.
year.
good.
Molly, can you add specifically including temporary tents, portalets, outdoor live music or food trucks?
That are,
I just want to make sure that outdoor live music gets,
Are you good with that, Mike?
Amy, with respect to the food trucks, I was looking at more of a regular basis for the food trucks.
Okay.
You know, so whether it's.
I'd say strike the food trucks. I don't know why that's relevant to, if you have a taco truck there and.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was hoping, because I'm not really serving food, but on certain nights, you know, have a food truck pull up to, if people are out at the pavilion, so I was hoping more on a regular basis. But tents are an exception, you know, if somebody wants a tent outside. Certainly the movie night, you know, we're looking at in different functions for the community, 2 or 4 times a year, or whatever I had written for the entire community to come in, the neighborhood to come in, and whether we do a chili dump, something to, you know, bring everyone together in a social function is what I was hoping for. But the food trucks I was hoping for more frequently.
okay.
So Mike, are you okay dropping food truck?
I am.
All right, is
Thank
there
you.
a
Just make sure
second?
they're not like on the south property line.
Is
next
there-
to-
No.
Is there a second so we can have discussion?
I will second.
Okay.
so just,
Discussion.
oh, hold on. The outdoor uses, Amy, you want them that include porta potties, tents, and outdoor music?
Yes,
Anything else in there?
outdoor live music. I mean, do you
Outdoor
want all
live
music?
music.
Amplified music?
Live,
Outdoor
amplified?
live and amplified music, maybe?
Okay.
Well, what is amplified music means something different to me
Oh.
than, what if we have music in the pavilion, you know, speaker music?
Oh.
Is that
It's up
considered
to you guys.
amplified? I mean, you won't
Keep it-
hear.
Well, she
Keep it to-
said outdoor live,
Keep it to
Yes.
live music.
Okay,
outdoor live amplified music.
okay, perfect.
So
Discussion.
I think we just had it.
Well, I'll add something to the discussion, and
Who
that
had the
is,
second?
Dan.
And
Dan, yeah.
well, I'll add something to the discussion. That is, the week before I became an alderperson, like 12 years ago, somewhere in there, I sat in on a couple of meetings, or the months leading into it, and a lot of them were around the use of this property. It was all the gun club issues that were going on and revocation of the conditional use back then, and then that incident at the brew house happened where that woman was shot. And this has been kind of a black cloud hanging over the neighborhood and the city ever since, as far as the public safety, just the raw public safety aspect of it, and just the concerns of the residents. Some that knew all about it, and some that moved in not knowing that there was ongoing lawsuits that were potentially to be lost, which we did. And so there's a conditional use that exists right now for people to resume shooting there outside. But for this, or something similar to it, an investment by somebody, we may be subject to that. And I'm not saying that's a threat. It's just, this would bring nice closure to this in a way that I think is an appropriate use for the area and for what's been there for a long time. So I'm glad to see that this is coming to a head. And like Brian, you said, not everyone's going to be happy. And I don't think this is perfect, but I think it's going to be a good use, and everyone try to be good neighbors, and we'll see how this works. But I'm glad that this page is turning on this property.
Yeah.
I am too.
As are a large majority of the citizens of Delafield.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes.
Well, not only that, I want to see the property give to the city, that this is going to bring people in that will go to the local businesses and that, which will help support them. He's going to be investing a lot of money in this property, which will benefit the city in tax dollars. So, and it's been laying idle for so long, and I just feel this is great because it will be a benefit for the city when it comes to money. Not only for taxes, but to the business owners in this area.
It truly is a beautiful piece of property.
Yeah, I've
You know,
always
when
loved
you
it.
walk it and
Yeah.
you're interested, I mean, it's every time I look at it, wow, that's pretty neat.
Oh, I like it because it's in a valley.
All right, yeah.
Alrighty. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
have at it.
Thank you, everyone. Again, I just want to commend the city staff and the mayor and all of you. I really appreciate it. When I first started this, it was a whole different meeting that I had at the Delafield Brew House with the residents. And, through a long process, again, building people's confidence, working through the different legal issues and everything else. So I really appreciate what everyone did to move this forward. And again, I can reassure you, this will become an asset to this community, and it'll be highly respected. And I will comply with whatever was set forward. So thank you again.
Good luck, thank you.
Yeah, good luck. You like the brick.
Okay.
See the materials?
I did.
I like the brick.
We'll move on to number 9, new business, DELC 0784971003, DELC 0784971004, and DLC 0784975100 South 83, owner Elmbrook Church Incorporated, applicant Jennifer Akin. Applicant is requesting that the Planning Commission discuss and provide feedback regarding a conditional use amendment to allow summer programming, including the installation of a temporary tent to provide shelter for outdoor activities and schedule a public hearing of the same.
I wish
Is
this
the
was on,
applicant here? Is the applicant here?
I don't think so.
I was going to say, I wish this was on the consent agenda, because I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
very inclusive. I mean, it's very,
Well, I have some
very
questions.
solid.
I want to know if there's going to be a food truck there. I'd like to know how big the tent's going to be.
It
How
says how-
long is the tent going to be
That's
up?
what the spec.
It's all in there.
Are you being
Sarcastic.
Mayor, it's all in there. And so this is an amendment to we're looking for a public hearing to be scheduled.
Yes.
I don't have questions about it, and I move to approve the public hearing.
Yeah,
If they're asking for our next meeting, let's move it to the next meeting.
yeah, I'll second that.
April 27th.
Yeah.
April
hearing.
27th.
You're moving it just straight to public hearing?
Yeah.
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 It's so simple, yeah.
Okay.
As long as I have to
Alrighty.
spell your name right, though, Amy.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we'll move on to 10, zoning and ordinance revision, DLC 0798964, 310 Genesee Street. Owner Ryan Eisenhut, DLC 0798962, 302 Genesee Street. Stocks, DLC 0798958, Genesee Street. Owner Jacob and Jacqueline Futs, DLC 0798957, 200 Genesee Street. Owner Michelle Kelly, and DLC 0798892, 600 Poplar Path. Owner City of Delafield. Applicant City of Delafield. Discussion on potential rezoning and subject properties and amending the land use to allow for low-intensity commercial use and to amend the land use plan and zoning for the cemetery. Amy?
Can I, you're Il Mito, right?
I am.
You were approved way in the beginning.
I was?
Yes.
But you look.
Read off your name.
I just wanted to say that's all.
He came in after that.
Oh, you came in after. Oh.
I was holding myself up saying, what about the liquor license?
You're approved.
I think you
You
should
were
wait
approved
until
in the
the end.
first 10
to tell us.
minutes.
I enjoyed myself, Mr. Mayor. I've been having fun, so it's been good.
When are you opening?
April 4th. One of the neighbors that lives upstairs actually left the water off. And we had cleaned everything. We were ready to open April 1st.
Oh, no.
It flooded the entire bar area and the seating and everything.
Wow.
So the landlords are working on that. Yeah.
Wow.
Everything happens for a reason. I guess I need 2 more days of rest. That's what it is.
Well, I look forward to trying your
Thank
new
you,
restaurant.
man. I
Likewise.
look forward to cooking for you.
Good,
Look
good.
forward to it.
I'll go back and start feeding someone else. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Good to see you again.
Good catch, Dan.
It's just,
Thank you for catching that.
He is, and it just hit me.
I
He's
never saw him.
America's.
I know him too.
And he
I
came
never.
in after you had made
Yeah,
the
he
scene.
never caught my eye.
You mean this isn't just riveting stuff that people
Well,
just
he
come
looked
to?
at you and said, oh, maybe I shouldn't.
Okay, Amy, you have the
catch.
floor.
Okay. So at the last meeting, we've had a couple conversations about this area, and at the last meeting, we talked about maybe changing the approach a little bit and amending the land use plan to not necessarily promote it, but to encourage what's the right word? State that this is something we expect to happen over time, and we're
Right.
willing to
Look into the
review
future.
these considerations.
Proactively.
It's
Yeah.
a look into the future. Great way of saying it. So I have proposed language to amend the land use plan, and then we talked about how each property would need to come in and rezone their property individually. And I guess I should take a step back. I did meet with all of the neighbors. That was also one of the recommendations. And they were very concerned that even if we just amend the zoning district each time, there's going to be certain standards. And they felt that it was really important to look at each property individually based on the adjacent uses, the accessibility to other roads or Genesee Street, whether or not there's room for parking, and if there's not, maybe there shouldn't be customers allowed to come to the property, et cetera. So they were concerned, and retail came up as a concern. And,
High volume, right? The people
Yeah.
coming back and forth, like
Yeah.
that's what they're concerned
Yeah.
about. It's not, I think Tom Hafner said it in our meeting this morning, it's not like if you can have a beauty salon and you're coming there for a service, but while you're there, you might buy a brush or something. But you're typically not going to drive to the beauty salon just to get brushes or just get, that kind
You're
of
there
thing.
for a purpose.
And so that's what,
yeah.
I think
And-
that's what they're implying. They don't want that
Yeah.
retail traffic.
Yeah, and they were just saying, because they have homes out there, they don't want people coming, and the homes are pretty close to
Yeah.
the lot lines, that they were uncomfortable having strangers walking up and down these properties when they are so close to the lot lines themselves. So we did talk about this, and I think the majority of the group liked the way this is now being set up, and that is to not only require a rezone, but to also require that they go through a plan development conditional use, which is similar to like CBD 3, I think, requires plan development conditional uses. And then a lot of some of the B6 uses require them too, which gives you a ton of control in determining what is or is not appropriate on each individual site. So So I do have a recommendation, and I think we should go through this. I know it's getting late, but I'd like to go through it in detail so that we can move forward if it's appropriate, at least with the land use plan amendment, because that's a 30-day public hearing notice period. So on the first page I have in the packet, I just am showing the existing language of the land use plan. On the second page, I show my some edits. I did change it's just something that that bothers me individually. You don't have to change it. But I changed central business district to just central business category. Usually in a land use plan, you don't refer to districts because that also coincides with zoning, and you already have such close names to begin with. So I changed district out everywhere that I thought it was appropriate. And then I included, so in the first paragraph, it talks about the types of uses that it's intended to accommodate. I included studio space in that because the way it currently is written, it says there should be enough flexibility in the zoning to permit limited artisan workshops in studio space. When I think of a studio space, I think of like maybe a photographer or an art studio or somebody that's just working, where a workshop is, some zoning districts consider that like light assembly in industrial, and this is saying that those really light uses where they're just woodworking, small products is reasonable for this area. Your birdhouses and
We did have a gal some time ago next to that building next to the school, going north, who did pottery in the garage area.
okay.
So it kind of goes with what you're talking
Sure.
about.
So I just moved studio space to just include that with everything else. I didn't think there was anything unusual about studio space.
Yeah.
And then I added, so in the existing language, it talks about how mixed residential development should be permitted, but it says particularly on the second floors. And then it says, provided the residential uses do not occupy first level space that would be more suitable for commercial activities. Well, there's several properties in the downtown, including CBD1, CBD2, that don't include commercial and the combination of commercial and residential. So I just put, especially in the center of downtown, there are areas beyond the central core of downtown and along the fringe that are appropriate for residential use without any commercial activities. These areas are reflected through zoning. And then,
I didn't quite get all that, but we're not opening the door for apartments there, are we, with?
no, what I'm
not
trying to say is,
multifamily.
what I'm trying to get at is, this is suggesting that residential may be allowed, but it should be on the second floor. And I'm trying to say, well, on the
Are
fringe
you
areas.
using the word multifamily in there?
Not in my new language,
Okay.
no.
Is it like owner occupied?
I'm just trying to say residential uses on the fringe without the commercial use may be appropriate. The way it's written, if you go in and you read it, it seems like we shouldn't just be allowing residential use.
Oh.
But in this area, that very well is part of the permitted uses.
Mine's a bigger picture thing. I don't like
Yeah.
the word multifamily because it means different things to different people, number one, and I definitely don't want, I don't want to be considering apartments over there.
There's no, I'm looking here, I don't think there's any reference to multifamily. The existing language says mixed residential development, which there is a lot of that, commercial with residential above.
Yep.
Okay.
So far, right?
Yeah, that I'm totally fine with. I just want to make sure we're not inadvertently saying something we don't really mean.
There's much of it. There's a lot of it.
Well, you do say potential intent, you say intended to permit single and two-family dwelling units.
In the zoning district,
You know, in the,
you're ahead of me.
yes, I'm sorry, yes, you're correct. So then that falls in,
That's in the zoning,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to make sure the zoning
yeah.
kind of matches the intent of the land
right,
use plan.
good, okay.
And then it looks like I added in here with the development of the Veterans Memorial River Walk, I have St. John's. I don't think I finished this. And Public Safety Campus. What do you call the new area that you, the outlet of the lake, and you've improved that
Oh, the
Bark
Bark
River?
River,
Bark River?
are we calling that something?
It does not have an official name.
Okay.
It's the Bark River.
It's the Bark River
Common area.
Commons.
Okay.
Since you're, I think veterans
It's been yet
needs
to
an-
be named by Bark
Maybe I'll
River.
take that out. I was trying to say that area of improvement.
Veterans needs an A.
Oh.
Just since you're redlining things,
What was that, Tim?
just veterans needs an A in it.
Okay. And can you change it to Nagowica Lake?
Yeah.
Where's
Does it
that?
say,
So this is probably existing language. Where,
It is.
Oh, got
Yeah.
it.
If you're
Yep.
changing it. No, you didn't.
We know where you came from.
Well, I've got to add something.
No, it's
Other than taking
It's a
Dan's
thing.
emotions,
It's-
I've got to
It
do
is, huh?
something.
it's a thing.
it gets written both ways over time, so.
So I'll probably remove St. John's.
Yeah, I don't know why that's even.
Well, because I was thinking that area was, I thought that was a St. John's. Isn't
Well,
there
it's
something?
It's St. John's Park, but
Park?
Park, yeah.
That's what I was thinking of, and I didn't know the formal name, but I can take it out. And then that's really it there. I just added the word, these improvements could enhance the commercial qualities. I added and uniqueness of the central business area. And then I added a paragraph. So this is really the important part. And if you want to suggest amendments, please do. So this is all central business. There already is a big central business area downtown. This would be an extension of that. But I would put like a black border around this specific area and identify it as special use area 1. When we get into all the economic development projects, there are going to be other special use areas. So they will be numbered different numbers on the land use plan. And then it says, areas designated in this special use area are included in the central business category because they are a logical extension to downtown. Although it may be appropriate to transition the areas from residential to commercial uses that provide neighborhood services and are compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods, it is important to consider the individual site conditions prior to allowing this transition to take place. Properties within Special Use Area 1 will only be zoned to allow for commercial uses on an individual basis with consideration given to individual site conditions. Based on projected traffic, noise, intensity of use, compatibility with the neighborhood, any zoning amendment shall be accompanied by a plan development conditional use, which may include conditions that provide greater flexibility or restrictions related to use, dimensional and area standards, and requirements for open space amenities, landscaping, lighting, and signage. I don't know.
that's great. I mean,
Yeah.
you're spelling out intent more than we do in a lot of other places.
Yeah,
I think it's
very
really good.
clear.
Because it's one thing that gets lost sometimes is when it's just a gray and like you specifically don't mention the zoning, but then you're putting judgment in the right hands. It's going to be the hands of the plan commission and the council that's in place at the time to judge whether it's meeting this intent. And I think that's good. I think.
Okay. So then, so in the land use plan, under each category, it has applicable zoning districts spelled out. So right now it says CBD1, CBD2, and R4. I'm assuming that you guys created CBD3 after the land use plan was created and that never got added, but that should be in here.
Yeah, I believe that was created
sure.
for the hotel and the hotel only, right?
I think there's a couple of sites, but,
I think
Thank-
that's what.
I think you're right.
Yep, I think that's what happened.
so,
Also,
so I just,
old-timers.
so I added CBD3 and then whatever potential new district we would come up with, unless you want to use an existing district. I do also just want to point out, there's one B1 property that's currently designated in the central business district or central business category. I don't know if you want to then add B1 to this. I think it's kind of a,
What is it?
that's a good question.
Well, I don't- if we don't add it, isn't it fine? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
it's
probably a
already
problem
there,
that's going
I
to get corrected then.
I just wouldn't want then you to think that you could just make B1.
You got to reconnect.
Is it a large?
Turn it off
area?
Turn it off first. Turn it off first. Don't turn off your mouth.
He's coming.
Sorry.
Is B1 really a large area? How
Yeah,
large is the
for
area?
anyone
for
annoyed
B1?
at home, we do
Where
have
is
new
it?
sound coming in our budget.
The B1 area is one property.
One property, so it's like a hanging appendage.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, maybe it's not even
happens.
supposed to be central business, I don't know. So that one I'm not super concerned about. But then there's also a area that's designated as CBD2 that's not in the designated area. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm not sure that's what we need to be accomplishing here, but in a future land use plan amendment, you probably want to clean up your maps a little bit.
Yeah. Good
So
idea.
I still have a new district proposed. I thought about B1, but I think the overall intent in the setbacks and offsets are just slightly different. So I did create a new district, and it's CBD. So I thought we should just go with. Originally, I had proposed a couple different names, but CBD4 might just be the most appropriate.
Sounds like a good idea.
I think so.
I'm fine with
Yeah.
that.
And then I've got an intent section. Do you want me to read through all of this?
Oh, that's good. I think
Yeah.
that's good. You
What-
mentioned the single and two-family dwelling units, so that kind of, when someone's looking for a conditional use, we can lean on that to say it's not for
Yeah.
a 16-unit apartment building, which
Yes.
Lord knows there's enough of those showing up everywhere.
Yeah.
So we've got permitted uses are single-family and two-family dwellings, and then the conditional uses are any other use requires a planned development CU. And I do try to say in here, so, the neighbors were concerned about retail use, and I did get an email from one of the neighbors who said he's still concerned about that. But I have it here, the Plan Commission has the authority to use their discretion when determining which specific uses are allowed based on compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood, which may be predominantly residential, and in order to meet the intent of the zoning district. Uses are limited to low-intensity professional office, service, and retail. Retail establishments, and maybe this is going too far. Retail establishments will only be allowed if the adjacent properties are primarily used for commercial purposes or if the property owners of the adjacent properties at time of the request approve of such use. Only the commercial uses listed in CBD1 and CBD2 will be considered.
Do we think that use of the word retail there is too broad for what the?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this morning. Well, for one, we can add in there retail, limited retail. So you have a home
Limited
occupation
retail
section
to a service?
that's accessory to a primary service is okay. And I can give an example, like such as selling shampoo
At a
For a salon.
beauty salon.
at a beauty salon, to provide that example, or picture frames for a photographer. So I can add that in there. I guess
You've
I
got a
just.
pretty big veto power in there. Didn't you have if the residents approve?
Yes, and that's
It's
why
a
I want to
pretty-
say that if that's going too far, consider that. So I thought about pulling retail out completely because it was such a big concern, but I want to think down the road in the future, this might be primarily commercial and there may only be one house in there. And then that
Absolutely.
starts to change and retail is perfectly appropriate.
Right.
So I don't want to take it out. I think when each individual application comes in here, you would need to be very considerate, and I think it's clear in here that you need to
is.
be really careful. So I don't know if the neighbors approving it is, I think you should talk about that a little bit.
I'm just trying to think of any other example where we have a condition where the
Neighbors have control?
neighbors have
The
control.
issue with that is like we talk with the shooting range, you'll always get someone who'll just say no to everything.
But you're talking adjacent, you're
But
talking
on the-
3 properties here.
But on the
Yeah.
other hand,
Yeah.
you're that neighbor.
I'm just talking out loud. It's just,
Well,
I
here's the
can't
deal.
think of another example is all I'm saying.
No, I think it's, based on the feedback I got in the last meeting anyway, the way I read it, what this would do is this would make it so this isn't snapping your fingers and they all drop over like one after another with a new zoning amendment. This means you could have the holdout that just says nope, nope,
Yeah,
nope.
that's
And then it kind of changes on their watch instead of the market's watch, which isn't necessarily what we do isn't what we do anywhere else at all. But this is kind of a unique
It is unique.
situation, and it is putting a lot of power in their hands. I don't know that that's wrong. I mean,
You could always,
if I'm that person, I mean, I'm just saying.
you can always, I mean, it would take a long time in the process, but you could always revise it,
That's true. Yeah,
Right?
our code's only as good as
Always.
the people
right?
sitting
Like
here
if
tomorrow.
if there's one holdout and it just doesn't make sense, you can always go through a process of revising, correct?
So a different question was asked in some of the correspondence and that is what does it do to property values, right? The less restrictions, typically the higher the property values in general, not necessarily for the person living there at the moment, like how they enjoy it, but so it negatively impacts the marketability of the property if you've got one resident that you know for sure is always going to say no. So it does put a damper on the property values, but it puts a lot of control in their hands. So if that's what they want, I mean, right? I don't know. It's
I would be
interesting.
more
I'm just
flexible. I
not
would
talking
be-
about it out loud. We have more time to discuss it. I'm just saying.
There's pros and cons to it.
I'm not aware of us doing that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
The pro
I mean,
is you're more likely to get 5 or 6 in a row to say, okay, well, as long as I can say no, I'm good.
Yeah.
But then the con is, if you've got that, poison pill in the formula, the marketability of the property value is a little bit less because you've got to make that person happy. But that's,
Yeah.
So
I don't
Andy,
know. It's interesting. It's an interesting.
Yeah, I could see it both ways. Wouldn't any of these require a public hearing? If we
Both.
took this out of the
Conditional
hands
use.
of a neighbor, you would still
And
have
give
a
it them
public
the
hearing
process through
where
the
they
hearing.
could come and state their concerns.
based on the neighborhood meeting, which by the way, I think was a excellent best practice that we did here, and I hope to repeat it in the future, because we went from a position of people that didn't have enough information and were very opposed to this to now we have only one person coming saying that they support it, right? And all the negatives have gone away. So what we did here worked, right? Based on the neighborhood meeting that you had, would they be comfortable with if we took that out, or you think no?
I don't know. I put that in there because the concern was retail.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
The concern was retail. The concern wasn't that they wanted independent approval. Am I understanding you correctly?
Correct. I think what
Okay.
they wanted was the CU option, so that they could come and comment.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily what we've just been talking about.
I mean, you could strike that part, and I don't know if you keep retail establishments will only be allowed if the adjacent properties are primarily used for commercial, or you strike it completely. And when it comes to public hearing next month, I mean, you're going to hear that concern, and you can
Well, I'm
decide
trying
to
to
add or
preempt
subtract.
it by what was important to them at that meeting, and what you've said is that wasn't something that was
Well,
important to them.
re-
What was important to
not-
them was no retail.
Yeah.
Right. So this was my compromise.
Yeah.
So I'd be more than willing to get rid of
You
retail.
could get rid of it and just focus in on your light retail commentary, which
Yeah.
should address that concern.
I would
If you
think
don't
that
want to
would
allow
work
it
from
at
them.
all.
I agree. I think I'd
Yeah.
take it
Yeah.
out too. I think
If
it's-
We'll find out, but that's
Yeah.
what the process is for, right?
The limited retail should work for them because anybody can come in and get a home occupation, which is similar to that, which is, it's just you wouldn't have the house component associated with it, but somebody can put in a beauty salon in 25% of their home and have shampoo
Yep.
right now. So you want to delete that sentence entirely, retail establishment, no, we're removing retail as allowable use minus that limited, right?
Yes.
So I think I have to add that to a couple places.
Can you?
Go ahead.
So maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I'm thinking about it. So I've got something I'm thinking about too, like the neighbors who's visiting. I don't mind a chiropractor dealing with someone with a neck issue, right? Coming in next door. But what if, does professional offices, would that include somebody like, let's say a psychotherapist who specializes in anger management, let's say, right? Or, you know what I mean?
I would think so,
It would
yes.
include that, right?
I would
Just
think,
as
yeah.
it would include
So
a
that's-
patient who needs dental work to the dentist.
No, that's a different, we have a different, RR is dental, optical, and chiropractic offices. Then outside of that, we have professional offices. So I mean, I'd be more comfortable stating the conditional use parameter by giving some examples of professional offices that might be more toward accounting, tax
What you would
preparation.
prefer.
I was
Accounting,
wondering,
tax
too,
preparation, insurance,
This is a little wild.
because professional offices,
As
Do
just,
probationary officers,
Well,
do they have an
just-
office?
just
that
as
could be-
examples for you
as
to
examples
help
to
you.
leverage,
Yeah.
to say no to something
I
that
like
you
the
think is
idea.
inappropriate from being across from the school and next to someone
Yeah.
with kids.
That's fine.
You know what I mean?
Counseling centers or something
Yeah.
like that.
I would like an out as opposed to, especially the way the conditional uses are
Yeah.
handled from the state.
Yeah.
That's a wide net, saying professional
Yes.
offices. If we give examples of what we're accepting, we can leverage that to say no to something is what.
I think, so I was thinking about that with the conditional uses in the state law. I think where this has a little bit more girth is the zoning district also is pretty tight, and the land use plan is pretty tightly written. So like I think it gives you the opportunity to be a little bit more restrictive, but we are meeting with our new attorney tomorrow, and this
Bring
is
that one up. I'd like to know if that caveat would work for us on that, on XX for professional offices as a list of in the zoning for types of uses that are listed. Because you've got,
So I'm not doing, so that's the old report.
Oh.
I'm not doing a full list anymore.
oh, you're not? Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is, it's this paragraph, and then I'm saying only the commercial uses listed in CBD
Low
1 and
intensity
CBD
professional
2 will
office
be
services.
considered.
Commercial, isn't that what's listed though on CBD 1 and CBD 2? Is those professional offices?
That in the old report was more of a comprehensive, professional offices I'm sure is listed,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I'd like to know if we could throw that
Yeah.
in as a
Caveat.
I think-
caveat.
Limit it.
I think we can, no matter what, put it in this paragraph.
That'd be nice to. Yeah, okay. So that you understand what the protection I'm looking for in
Yes.
general, where the people are going to have red flags about a particular, especially, I mean, we're talking about there's things we do for schools that are unique to schools. There's things we do for residential areas, and anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to single any one clientele out, but I do specifically want to single out about 12.
Be like compatibles.
I could think.
You know what I'm saying? Just to be fair to
Okay,
my
so to
intent.
move us along,
Okay,
are we
sorry.
where
And
we
then-
need to be to schedule the public hearing?
Well, and then
or-
I also have in here a few required, so I do want you to look at this if you don't do it tonight, but because it does get kind of specific. So I have a few required conditions that always apply. All buildings except for off-street parking or loading shall be conducted within a completely enclosed building unless specifically exempted by the plan commissioner approved as a special event. And in that case, when I refer to special event, I am thinking of like the Delafield days where they like put some of their merchandise out on the sidewalk, or, there might be something that occurs. And the type of business and number of employees is limited to available access and parking to the site. These provisions will be determined at time of conditional use issuance. I have on here, customer traffic
You
shall
want
not
vehicle
enter.
like customer vehicle traffic, right?
Yes.
Good point, yeah.
If
It
you
could
want
be-
that restriction, if
could
you
be
want them to come
pedestrian.
off, if you want them to come onto the site from Genesee Street, that's your prerogative, but.
Where you're talking about entering the property, this would say that you're not pulling in and out of a driveway on Genesee. So if you're using that business, you are
For customers.
You're parking there. Yeah, right. A customer is not pulling in and out of the driveway. They are parking someplace and walking there. Is really what we're trying to accomplish,
Yes,
right?
or coming off a poplar path and or maybe using a future parking easement, which
Right.
we're kind of leaving
Right.
that a little more open, but that might happen.
Oh,
So right now, it's pretty much saying you can't have a business with customers if you're going to rely on Genesee Street.
To
But you
pull
could
in and
park
out.
downtown and
Yeah.
walk
Yeah.
up.
That's
a
lot
that's
right
the
across
point.
the street.
Across the street would work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sign regulations are as indicated in chapter 8, so that's just general. And then I would have to add this new district to the sign section of the code, because there's paragraphs that relate to certain districts.
Okay.
This is already in the downtown district.
Yeah.
This was another concern, not in my meeting with the neighbors, but at the last meeting, was I said sign will always be limited, even if you could have more square footage, it'll be limited to 25 square feet because it's in the downtown district, and they thought that was big. So, but I'm keeping it that way for now.
It's big.
My neighbor years ago,
That's big.
the electrician, the city would only allow him a sign about like this and like this, with only his name of his business on, no hours.
I think the sign's too big. I mean,
Yeah,
you're talking
I
about
think so too.
a monument
5
sign
is
or
big.
just a sign on the house or on the building?
So I'm saying that So essentially, they're just meeting the sign requirements of,
Oh, so it'd be on the building.
yeah.
It's not, I'm thinking about a sign in the front
Yeah.
yard. Is that what we'd be,
I think
so this
we
4 by
need
6
to
sign would be a
nail
little
that down.
obnoxious in the front yard.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
big.
Do you, 12 square feet or what?
That sounds good.
That sounds a lot better, 3 by 4.
Yeah.
Do you want to allow a freestanding sign? You almost have, if they're going to
You
be
need
set
one.
back a little bit more.
Yeah, but 4 by 6 would be,
Yeah.
that'd be too big.
Okay, that's fine.
You're not trying to, I mean, you better not be trying to stop traffic.
No,
Yeah.
not
With your
in that
sign.
area.
Right.
I'll look at the sign section,
Yeah.
probably still refer to it and then have an exception, but the size shall not exceed 12 square feet in this district, otherwise I
Yeah.
got to create a whole new paragraph in there. And then I do have lot area minimums, 15,000 square feet. That's based on the smallest lot being the 17,000 square feet. I've got lot width at 80 feet, same reasoning. Front yard setback, I think you need to determine whether or not you want that to be 30 or 50 feet. I believe the dental clinic is proposing 30 feet to give you an
I'd
example.
say 30 because we want
Yeah.
to promote it coming
Yeah, we're
forward,
trying to get it
parking in
closer to the
back,
road.
if-
Yep.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
room for the alley, if that ever
Yeah.
happens.
And that's what the neighbors, I mean, I think they're somewhat concerned, but I did explain the reasoning for that. We really do want to pull the structures closer to the road. Interior side and rear yard, 16 feet happens to be the requirement for R3. I think some of these structures are closer than that, so, I mean, you could go as low as 10 feet if that's really your call, but I think you should probably specify.
The side setback?
So the,
Scott
In
should
B-
weigh in on that.
in B1, it's 10 feet. Unless you're abutting a residential district, it's 25 feet. You could have a 10-foot offset unless it's abutting a residential district. It has to be 16 feet, which would match. There, what were you proposing? I'm just to kind of understand. I think 620.
Between like 15 and 20, I think, roughly there. No other plans on us, but it was.
I'm pretty sure they met the R3, so I think it's more than 16, but they have the biggest lot. These other lots aren't going to have that.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why we can't do 10?
No, it's up to how close you want to allow the structures to be to the adjacent property lines.
If you want parking in the back, how can you have the
Oh,
10
we
side.
have 10.
10 side? Then you just squeeze a car past it to get to the parking in the back.
That's a good point. That might not work.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Well-
like, those houses are all probably 10 feet, 10, 15 feet apart, like, they're really close. I can
Yeah.
basically touch the house next to us right now.
Yeah, the one next to the rental home or home we have neighbors. I can barely a lawnmower
Yeah.
back there.
Well, we could keep it what it is today, couldn't we?
Yeah.
If,
That, what do you mean?
well, if it's 10 feet right now
Yeah.
today. Because we're thinking they would leave that, well, I guess, yeah.
They're gonna
tear the house
rebuild.
down and
Yeah, I
they
mean, it's gonna
rebuild.
be-
That's right. That's what we have to think.
I'd
here.
say go with 10 and let's see what kind of feedback we got.
Pick a number, any
10,
number.
10's good.
10?
Go with it
Do 10.
Okay.
this time.
Corner, side yard, I have 30 matching R3. If I look at, like, B1 is 30 as well.
I'm sorry, you're saying the rear now or what?
Corner.
Corner, so actually, the only property that would apply to would be the dental clinic, and they will meet the 30-foot setback. So I don't think there's a major issue there.
Yeah, I mean, we have parking lot structure there, basically, but the house is separate.
Yeah, and that doesn't count.
Yeah. So let's go with that. That works.
Okay.
right?
Residential dwelling unit floor area, all I'm doing is matching other districts with the efficiency, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom units. You have to be a minimum square footage. And then maximum provisions, the heights, I'm just matching your typical stuff, so you're not getting the benefit of the downtown increase, just so you know.
That's fine.
Good. We don't want that.
And then floor area ratio, I think you need to consider whether or not B1 is 50%, R3 is 25%. So I would think about what you want for floor area ratio, unless of course you want to go with the building footprint. So it's just, like floor area ratio, if it's 25%, it's really like 12.5% building footprint.
It's kind of small.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty small.
50?
I'm thinking 50.
50 sounds right.
So if you go with 50, then I guess the only other, so a lot of these districts do not have an impervious surface provision or minimum open space. If you want to add that, you'll want to tell me that.
It seems
Like
kind of
B1.
unusual for for a downtown district.
B1 doesn't have anything, B2 doesn't have anything. B3, they don't have impervious surface. Any comment? Leave it out?
I'd leave it out.
I'd leave
Okay.
it out. Yeah.
So then I guess the next question is, I can talk to the attorney tomorrow and, so we had the land use plan amendment for Spherus. And through that process learned that the plan commission drafts a resolution making a recommendation. And then there needs to be a 30-day notice for a public hearing. And then the common council, a public hearing has to take place at common council and then they act on it. So as Spherus, we did a public hearing at plan commission and common council. So I would need to know whether or not we have 2 public hearings for this, or you draft a resolution to common council without a public hearing. The tricky part of that is, the whole thing is awkward. Eventually we want to change. In fact, we could probably change the land use plan because we're changing it with this. But you kind of want to have the public hearing on the front end, or you're drafting a resolution that the common council cannot change.
Right.
And you're not
But
getting the
what
public.
you're saying, though, the planning commission is not required to have the public
There,
hearing.
you are not, and the common council
But
is the way
I
they
think-
currently.
You don't have a
written.
public hearing scheduled as part of the discussion today.
No, I
this for here.
understand that,
Okay.
because I was thinking we would have a resolution drafted without the public hearing, but it does make it tricky. Now, the one thing I
We're
will
better
say.
off to have,
The risk is it comes back here again
Comes back.
after,
We can notify everybody of the meeting. You can notify everyone within
but
300.
we won't be able to get their
Can-
feedback if there's no public hearing.
It'll be on the agenda.
Public
Can you
comment.
do the,
Yeah.
can you do the draft? When you're talking about 6 citizens,
Yes.
can you do the draft and send it to them and say, do you have any questions?
the mayor can personally deliver them,
Yeah, and then,
Will
as I did the
Yes.
last one.
because where
I
I'm
did
going
the
with
last
this is,
one.
because then you could,
I
if
knocked
they
on every door and
theoretically,
handed it to them.
if they theoretically think it's fine, you could go straight to us at our next meeting, drafting a resolution
Right.
and
then
going
it can-
straight to the common council public
Right.
hearing, and tell them, hey, this is the date. You said this is okay. You don't need to come, and then you just speed up the whole process for everybody. Maybe
Right.
I don't know. Just an idea.
Yeah, I think we just would want to extend that to probably the people across the street are
Oh, yeah,
on the
behind
rear of the
it,
properties
yeah.
are impacted by this
On the
too.
They
east,
are. I
on the east
agree.
side. Stocks Drive? That's Stocks.
Yeah,
On the back side?
yes, that's
The
Stocks.
east
Yeah, I
Stocks.
forgot about that.
Stocks Drive.
None of them answered the door when I went there.
Yeah.
They have not been
True.
vocal on that side.
Yeah. I don't,
So let's notice them
I think
and not do the
though-
public hearing, and we'll just make
And
sure
put
we
draft 'em.
hand deliver them.
Right.
Okay, but you
To
want me to
assure they
put,
receive them.
No, like Amy said, they can comment under public
Yeah.
comment, citizen comments.
Yeah.
so you want me to go ahead and draft put on the agenda?
Yes.
Review
Yeah.
the resolution?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, and then as part of the land use plan amendments, we will probably propose an amendment where the public hearing takes place at plan commission instead of council. Because per the statutes, you can do it either way.
Oh,
If
Okay.
you think that's more, it's nice to have the public hearing early in the process.
what
I thought you said
Yep.
there had to be 2 public hearings.
There does not have to be
Just
2.
one.
We
One or
did
the
2
other.
for Spherus.
Yeah.
Just
it's it
trying
can-
to make sure we even give extra opportunity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You could have,
you could always
as I say, you
add
could have a
it.
joint meeting.
I don't want residents coming and screaming, where was the public hearing?
Well, it's not,
you know?
yeah.
Because I think you should give people that opportunity. Because they came here and
And they'll have it at the
unpleasant
council.
about the fact that they were notified so late about the public hearing.
But- Yeah, they get another, I mean, so
Yeah,
it'd be on the next
I-
meeting agenda with a hand-delivered note, and then it'll be at a public hearing in front of the council to act on a resolution. And
But
that's
do they
frankly,
know that?
that's how, well, we don't know it either right now. So we have to, they'll know it once we determine it,
They have
right?
to know that, because a lot of times when I speak with people about public hearings, they're not aware of that.
Yeah, I can put that in
Yeah.
a memo notifying them. I can say that a public hearing will take
Right.
place with common
Yeah.
council.
And
That's what we did on the last one.
And I believe
good.
too that those people
Their
on
their
Stocks-
alderman is very plugged in
Yeah.
too, I'll tell you that. And
Is
so,
he?
yes, she is.
Because I think that those people on Stocks Drive who border this also should be notified. Because
We can do that.
I think that is the prudent thing to
They
do.
abut it. They
Bec-
are abutting
yeah.
property.
Right.
And they were given the initial letter too,
Yeah.
so
That's
if,
true.
they should all be tracking this
Right.
project.
Yeah, that's
all-
true.
in
They
general.
They should be,
But we're going to go the extra mile.
right.
Okay,
I think it's always better to do that.
then I do want to ask another question about this. So the dental folks would like to move forward. So next month you would be considering a resolution that would go to council, that has to go to a public hearing and action. They have a concept plan and want to schedule a public hearing to do their rezone and CU, assuming this passes. Is it too early to put it on the April agenda for concept review and scheduling a public hearing
I don't
for?
think so.
No, do it.
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
move
do them
along.
concurrently.
Okay.
Yeah, right, in tandem, yeah.
The only thing I would suggest is to make sure that we can talk later, but to make sure the plans meet at least the draft code language. Okay.
Which we went through most of it just now, so.
I think it does meet everything.
Okay, is that it? So we need a motion to schedule,
Public hearing.
No,
No?
you don't need this is just discussion, and
Okay.
on the next agenda, I will put on there, act on the
Okay.
resolution.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so that people are clear, so it'd be nice if it's like in the minutes too, if people review that. So that at their next meeting, we're gonna be talking about the resolution to change the land use and zoning. And that will,
So the resolution, it gets tricky. So I'm gonna have to time this out with the attorney tomorrow. But the resolution is to schedule the public hearing with common council.
right,
But
so it'll be a
the
recommendation.
zoning is not a resolution. You would just schedule a public hearing to amend the zoning. But
Yeah.
the zoning amendment, this is what I can talk about tomorrow. I don't know if you can take that through
Okay,
before the land use plan, you know.
but so, anyone concerned if they missed tonight's meeting or they're worried about, our next meeting, we're gonna be talking about next steps and all we're gonna be doing is make recommendations to act.
Yes.
Sounds really weak, but
Yes.
that's what we're doing, right? But so, okay, so,
I have a question. Have we taken care of the cemetery rezone?
That's just, it will be part of this.
Oh,
Be part of
okay.
your resolution
All right.
and then
Good.
zoning.
I just want to make sure we,
Don't forget about it?
yes. Yeah.
Very good
Because
point.
nobody comes in support of that. So it could easily be forgotten.
Well, I
I'll
could say
make
it
sure.
is
I
residential.
have forgotten about it.
Yeah.
It is permanent.
Yeah, perfect.
okay, so we're all done with 10A then? All right, we'll move on to 11, report of city officials. A, planning commission meeting dates and deadlines. Regular meeting will be April 27th, 2022. Regular meeting submittal deadline will be April 12th, 2022. Refer you to any correspondence in the packet. And then planner, anything for you?
I do have one thing that I want to talk about. So I've been getting some really simple BPO requests. And in fact,
El
Mito. Is it El Mito? El Mito, and Play Try, which was on the consent agenda, and Birchwood, well, that's just a BPO. They submitted signage without business plan of operations, even though they're changing the name of their operation, which is in the code as something that needs to be provided for approval. So there are some communities that are streamlining that process when it is genuinely just an owner, operator, or name change, but everything else is staying the same, allowing that to be administratively approved. And so I just want to bring that up for consideration because these folks aren't inherently thinking they need to even come.
Yeah.
And so it's oftentimes being caught after the fact. And we do really want to make sure we get updated contact information, but that's really what it comes down to.
And staff is okay with doing the administrative approval for those 3 things if they change.
Okay.
Everything, any other change would require them to come here. So we're looking for your feedback as do you feel comfortable with something
So
like
name,
that?
what is it,
Yeah.
name change?
What I'm thinking right now is name change, owner change,
owner.
operator change, or business name change with the same.
But the nature of the business is
It's
same.
all
Like, for
hours,
example,
what they
in-
do, everything's exactly the same.
I would think when there's a liquor license involved, maybe the owner-operator changes should come to us, maybe? I don't know if that makes sense.
With the liquor license. So I don't know.
Doesn't that go with the sale of the business?
Do they transfer?
Operator changes do not, liquor licenses don't,
They go with the new owner, don't they?
no, liquor, not technically. So the common council actually has to approve that liquor license. Most folks would relinquish their liquor license contingent upon the new owner being able to be approved for the liquor
So it's
license.
not a transfer, it's
It's not a
actually-
So
transfer.
that still
it's
gets approved then through council
common-
instead of here?
yep, through
Okay, all
common
right. I
council.
just want to make sure there's a step on that
Name
piece because
changes
those get a little
actually
weird
should be
sometimes.
approved through common council, I believe also.
So actually, we could put that on, like, because we could have a different form, and that could be part of the form, is you agree to all the existing business plan of operation conditions, and you need to transfer the liquor, whatever the language is, the liquor license, and here's the updated information.
Seems like a reasonable streamline.
Yeah, and as long as, I mean, it would hit our minutes, right, in
Because
your
I don't
report?
see a time when
Yes.
we would deny that.
No.
It would just be a quick,
I mean, it would hit our agenda in your report then if
So
this happened.
we happen to be doing this in the Village of Wales right now, and I'm on the Plan Commission, and that is something we added is, right in the code, it says a report needs to be provided to the Plan Commission on a monthly basis if there's any items. There's not very many that do that, but I have had a half a dozen since I've started, and, they have to come through the process, pay the fees, wait a month.
Yeah.
We do, I mean, we do learn and remember names associated with businesses, and so it's nice to
Sure.
know when
Yes.
someone missed
Like
their
you'll meet-
consent agenda item and we can call them out.
Yeah. Well, he runs a lot of commercials too.
Yeah.
he does.
All right, we'll move on to the building inspector's report.
I think he's-
No report.
He's not here.
So, and item number 12, seeing no further business, we are now adjourned at 9:03 PM. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.